turtle is sketched. He's pretty cool. I like him. So the next step will be the horizon line coming in somewhere here. Bit of a wave, you know, light, rays and so on. But before you can do the water, you've got to do the sky. You always do what's furthest away, and of course the sky is always the furthest away. So I'm going to have a beautiful sweeping sky which will bring the eye into the main feature, which is the turtle. So this exercise now is all about how to paint a sky. And of course this is going to be a sky over water. So, but you can use this sky for anything. You use it for you know, a tropical scene, you use it for a rainforest scene. You know, it's just how to paint a sky. So I hope you enjoy it. I'll do a step by step. Remember, grab your paints at home and follow along. The sky will primarily start off quite a darker tone at the top, and working our way slightly lighter to the horizon. Now, what I'm going to do firstly though is I'm just going to sketch in a little bit of where I think the waterline will be, just so that I don't replicate any information in relation to the water. So this will all come clear in just a moment, rather than just a straight line. If you're doing a normal sky, you just put a straight edge on the line and off you go. But this one's going to be a little bit curved, so I've got to kind of draw that in first, just so it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's begin. We've got a little bit of a guide to go on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this horizon line just in there. Maybe a little bit of a wave coming up like that. Across. Overall, I want it to come down a little bit, just so it's got a nice curve. So I'm just going to replicate that size there, that size there, making sure the line is about the same. So then we come across like that, something like that. Okay, that's good. It's pretty even now. And just coming to a central point there somewhere. That's fine. Level that across. Like that. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll just check that. Okay, so that's there. It's a little bit high there. That's okay. We can work with that. Okay. So I like those waves, those wave lines. They're quite good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to block in using a very large brush, just some titanium white and also some cerulean blue, and I'm going to work from the top of the wall, also probably doing a little bit of the ceiling as well, but I'll blend that later. But for the sake of this exercise, working from the top of the wall down to the horizon being the lightest point, probably the lightest point in the whole painting apart from the highlights. So I'll show you how to do that now. So I've mixed up a tub here of cerulean blue and titanium white, and I'm using this wall brush to start the job. And it's always good to start with a big brush, because then you can get into it and get the job done. So let's get the top line going first. Okay, so we'll start off here. I'm not worried about the ceiling lining too much because, well, primarily it's going to be blended completely. But I am worried about this other side of the wall. That's going to match. So you're probably off camera here, but I'm just going to blend that across there a little bit. Let's do this side over here. I'll blend that later. Yep, that's good. Right, if you get that colour in there, and what I do is I bring it down to the horizon, but only so that I'm sealing the canvas, effectively the gyprock wall, with the paint. So that's a good nice tone for the brightest part of the sky. I like that. Okay, going across here. And what we're doing now is we're just getting that base coat of colour so we can put the clouds and all the rest of it over it. So if you look at the way a sky works, as the clouds create atmospheric perspective, it also gives distance to the painting, but you need to get that blend right first. So let's get that done now. Okay. Good. We'll lay that paint on thickly because thick over thin is the general principle that we want to avoid, primarily because if you start with thick paint, you continue with your thick paint and then you put your thin paint over the top. So if you've got thin paint to begin with, if you put thick paint over it, it'll probably just fall off. In time, of course, it breaks down. So you want to stay with your thick paint as long as you can, and that will give you the ability to then blend it later on. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So as we follow that colour, that's not too bad. I just want to get a nice even coat there. That's pretty good, that's a good one. Just come down here a bit. Now I could put this on time lapse, but I think it'd be better if I sort of showed you guys at home how I do this, because you might lose a little bit on the time lapse. Okay, so that's fine. Now I'll add some white to that as we go. Remember, we're getting lighter and lighter as we get to the horizon. And as we add the titanium white gradually to this darker colour blue, we should get a nice blend of the colours. Now we start off sort of here and then blend our way back into the higher area of the sky with that colour, and you get this lovely blended effect. Like that. That's good. Okay. And we'll keep going like that with a lighter colour in just a minute, but for now, let's just get this base colour down. I find whenever you're painting a wall, it's always a good idea to follow the tones that you've already put down, so you don't have any jumps, especially when you get to the corners. Now, I'm happy to do another video on how to actually paint the corners of a wall, but I think for the sake of this exercise, I'll just stick with this wall for now. But if you guys want to know more about painting around corners of walls and particularly in the wall mural process, let me know and I'm happy to explain that further. So I've got to keep moving quickly with this because it does dry quickly being acrylic. So now, because I'm coming down to the horizon, I'm just going to block that colour in there, just so I've got something to go over in a moment with the lighter colour. You'll see what I mean in a sec. At the same token, I'm also drying my brush and removing any excess paint. So while I've still got this blue, I'm going to come down here and give a little bit of a curve to this, just so I've got a background colour to work with. I'm not worried about the colour just yet. I just want to get that sort of shape of the water in there. That sort of thing. Okay. That'll do. I'll just go across there, block it in a bit. Okay. I'm using a bit of a crosshatch method here, just to give it a nice soft look. I don't want any brush strokes at this stage. Not any obvious ones anyway. That kind of thing. Okay, so I'll just now add some white and we'll get lighter as we go. Okay, so adding some titanium white now, we're getting a much lighter tone, still not white, but lighter than before. And whilst the paint's still wet, we're going to blend it into the distance like that. I'm actually very keen to start the turtle, but I know that if I rush this stage, well, it's a bit like sanding doing a carpentry job and doing the sanding. You've got to do the groundwork first. So this is the groundwork. So we haven't quite got to the lightest point of the sky yet. We're still getting that mid-tone in. I just want to get that lovely blended look. I'm glad I taped up this door properly because I've just gone over the door frame. That's okay because I've taped it. You don't need very good tape for this job either. Just anything that'll do the job, just to stop anything coming over that edge. Get rid of that. I don't know what that is. You want to see? Some sort of imperfection in the paint layer underneath. Okay. Got that, more white. You can probably see on camera that it's starting to blend nicely now. There's a little way to go yet though. Remember, I've still got a lot of blue in my brush as well, so that's part of the process. Okay, so keep that line here, where it is there, it's sort of there somewhere. Yep, that's it. And now I'm using the edge of the brush just to give that blended action there. Okay, that's it. Now notice I'm using straight strokes because as we approach the horizon, we find that the distance goes from a perspective at the top down to a lower point. So by the time we get to the lowest point of the horizon, we're actually almost generally quite level. So that kind of thing. Okay, let's get rid of that dark patch there. That's good. Okay. Yep. So now, if I wipe my brush, just wipe the excess paint off. Now I'm going to white. Okay, so I've got my white, now almost pure white now, and that will blend nicely with the colour prior, and it should. A little bit of water in there perhaps. I don't need much paint, but I need enough paint that I can do the next step. I'll just test that there, okay. Yep, that's the colour I want. What's that here, is it? Okay, here we go. That's sort of the horizon colour now. That's it, blending. Okay, nice. I'll go to a stage lighter yet, but the interesting thing about it is that with the water down here, we've got to get that sort of, there's a sort of a wave motion that reflects from the colour of the sky from above at this lower point of the blue. So now I'm just painting kind of over my turtle. That's why I'm just really just sketched him at this stage, and that will keep that lovely curve going here. I'm not too worried about the shape just yet, but at the same token I don't want to lose the shape, so I've just got to keep it kind of a flowing action of the flow of the, imagine the water will be shining light rays down through the water. So this is the darker section of the reflection. This is the lighter section because it's reflecting the sky. How's your painting going at home? Are you doing something like this on even a small canvas? If so, I'd love to see your results. Please send them in to me and we'll show them. It'll be great. It'll be really exciting. So I'm interested in now in the brush strokes, more the point of the direction of the brush strokes, and trying to get that lovely curve into the ocean without being too I don't want to be too defined with the brush strokes yet, because I want to go over them with some more detail a bit later, but just don't want that being darker there. Okay, now I think we're ready to go almost to pure white, so I'll wash that brush, go to pure white. Now you can work two ways with a painter. You can go from dark to light, which is my preferred methodology, or you can go light to dark. That's totally up to you. So we'll put the whites on now. So we've got a much lighter tone now. Let's see how that goes. Yep, that's slightly lighter. Probably not completely white just yet, but that's okay. That's sort of where we want to sit at the moment. Get that dark colour out of there. I want to get a horizon in there that's quite light. I have to let the wall dry a little bit, I think, because it's still picking up that darker tone, which I don't want. So while I've got that lighter tone in here, I'm just going to bring that across into the water below the area we've just done. If you have any imperfection or what you think are imperfections at this point, that's fine. You can just go over them with this lighter tone. There's no really such thing as a mistake with painting, because if you make a mistake, you can just paint over it. It's an acrylic painting, so there's no worries, there's no stress. So if you think you're doing the wrong thing, that's okay. Just let it dry and do it again. It's not a problem. Okay, so keep dropping hairs. I was going all the way down there. Okay. I'm using this lovely sweeping motion now, just to get that colour into the sea. I quite like that. That looks nice. That's what I was looking for. I want to keep those little darker patches just here. I like those. They're quite reflective of what I want them for. Okay. I won't stand back and have a look. Hey buddy, hang on. Okay, Okay, so now that we've got the blending of the sky in, we can now work on the direction of light. So the light for this particular image is going to come from the left hand side. So effectively, say the sun's up here somewhere, okay, and the rays are coming down this way. There's going to be some clouds sort of here, this area, and that's going to direct the light onto effectively our turtle. So that's sort of the idea there. So the light will be here, it'll slightly be in shade from the clouds, it'll be here, and then it'll be directing there. Now in relation to this area here, this will be slightly darker than that corner, so lighter and darker. And effectively, that's then going to give us a little bit of a distance to work on the atmospheric perspective of the painting. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to use some phthalo blue and some white. More white on this corner because it's lighter, obviously. Again, working on our same principles, lighter towards the horizon. Keep in mind that this is our meniscus of the water here, and I'll put this line in here just to give me a guide as to where I'm going to go, because that's the base depth of the water. So that will be the surface, and that'll be the depth of the water there behind. I might even put a little island over here somewhere, so then when I've got the coral reef coming down this way, it'll look really cool. You'll sort of imagine yourself, you know, in little caves and things like that. But let's not get in front of ourselves. Let's focus on the sky. Let's get the phthalo blue done. I'll put it on time lapse, and yeah, let's go from there. Okay, so now that we've got that base colour down, something, you know, like that, in relation to that we've got the light to dark, and we've got the aerial perspective as well. What I'm now going to do is I'm just going to show you a close-up of how I now do the clouds in relation to trying to put the light atmospheric perspective, because remember, a cloud is basically an aerial mix of moisture and air. That's all it is, and it's the way the light reflects off it that shows the shape and design. So in relation to painting a cloud, you basically painting air with body. It's quite a difficult thing to do, but I'm going to try and make it easy for you. So let me walk you through that, and let's go now. So I use, you know, a rounded brush. You can use any sort of brush, reasonable size. This is about 1/2 inch across. And what you're basically doing is you just, now we don't want to go too white just yet. So this is a mix of titanium white, phthalo blue, and also, of course, just a hint of Turner's yellow. And what that actually will do is give it some depth. So where the light's coming from the left, what I'm actually doing is I'm picking up all of those little shapes. Now, I will be blending them more, but you can see I'm just trying to get some body into the clouds for now, because we need to show the direction of light before we go too far. So we're using a sort of a scrubbing motion. I'm not getting too light yet. The highlights will come, but if there's any little interesting pieces of colour which formulate as an accident, well, I tend to leave them. It just depends on how I feel at the time. But you'll find that there's no clouds ever, you can never paint the same cloud twice. It's physically impossible, primarily because there's so many variants. So if you imagine, what I'm doing is I'm scrubbing the surface in a sort of a centrifugal kind of motion, and then I'm letting that paint sort of become less and less opaque, trying to follow a shape which will reflect the light as well. So I'll keep going like that. I hope that's helpful. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. It always helps me out. It's quite excellent, actually. And you'll see that I'm going over almost dry paint. It's probably a little bit tacky. It's only had, I don't know, half an hour or so to dry. But what we're now doing is giving it that body to the clouds and trying to become lighter to the horizon and also more horizontal towards the horizon as well. Get rid of that darker section that's just appeared. You can see that tiny bit of turnips yellow I've just picked up there. It just gives it that lovely little highlight. I like the and the dioxazine purple tends to give it a little bit of depth as well. Not much, tiny little touch is all you need, but it will make all the difference. It'll give it some body to the clouds. So let's keep going like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put some body to the cloud. So if we look over here, I'm just focusing on this section here. I'll just do a quick video on that and how I go about it. So I'm thinking I'm just going to put a little, just bear with me, this will make sense in a sec. Sort of a shape like that, shape like that. I'm just going off a couple of different guide photos that I've got there, but primarily this is how I do it anyway. So then what I do, now that I've got a rough shape to it, is I grab my brush. Now if we get a little close up, can we get a close up of this? Like I'll start here, you see. So what we do is we follow the shapes, but we make our own shapes at the same time. So we're just getting a little bit of almost a sort of an interesting kind of what's the word, design to the clouds. Now, what we're doing, okay, right to the top here, don't worry about that bit yet. Now you can see that there's a little bit of dioxazine purple and obviously the white, but now I've just picked up a little bit of that, perhaps a little bit too much extra blue, but that's okay, it'll work. Okay, so I'm blending that now, blending now, blending now. And then I'm picking up those lighter tones here. Remember the light's coming from the left, so I want to keep the focus on the left with it when it comes to the build up of the highlight of the clouds. I'll put a cloud in front of it in a minute, but for now I'm just getting a blend using less and less of this lighter tone. There we go. Note the brush strokes, they're nice and smooth, but I'm sort of a centrifugal motion following a sort of pattern. That seems to be the general gist of it. Now if we look at, I'll just get a little bit more white. Now you've got to be careful with white because it's very overpowering. So what I do is I tend to just blend it back a bit. So what we'll do now is we'll pick up those highlights now. So, no, still not white enough. Hang on a sec. Just bear with me. Just get some more white. Titanium white's very pigmented. You can actually use a translucent white if you'd prefer, but it's basically a case of doing it gradually. So now if I tend to hold my wrist on this case canvas, but the wall, and just pick up all those little points on the light we've just painted there. And then what we can do, I'll just say it's a good video for you, as it comes darker to this point here, then we put another cloud in front of it like that. Again, picking up those lighter points. I don't tend to follow the same pattern. I tend to go a little bit different. But the lighter tone tends to come through and it gives that sense of depth of the clouds as well. And then we bring them back to the horizon. So there's a, you know, there's a flat area of the sky. Just get rid of those brighter parts. And then if you're feeling keen, and I am, I'm going to do a third layer. All I do is, of course, just reload my brush with some white. Come back to here, and I might go, I think, here. There we go. Come there. So I like that dark section there because it'll make it stand out really well. Now remember, I've got a wave that's coming here too. There's a wave like that somewhere. So I don't want to sort of, that'll be behind the wave now. That's okay. Okay, that's good. Okay, fix this one up here. You can see why we needed to blend the sky before, because now when we go over it, we don't want any sort of little differences in tone, because it's really important because every little part will be picked up. Blend those a bit more, and that's one section undercoated, and there's the clouds. Let's keep going. So now that we have this base down of colour, I'm now going to pick up all those little nuances, that's a good word, I like that word, of the clouds. Now, I don't want to get too radical with it, but you need to get enough highlight into the cloud to make it believable as a bright cloud. So what I then sort of do is I just get my finger, I kind of get those points on there, and I then rub it like that. Just gives it a nice edge. And then you can go back over it again and sort of pretty up the edges and things like that. But you don't want to make them look like Disney clouds, you know, those sort of all even bright clouds. But just imagine being on a beautiful tropical holiday and seeing those awesome cerulean blue sky with the white clouds. That's what I'm trying to capture there. So what I then do is I come across here and I put a second layer once I've blended that first one. Probably a little bit too much paint on my brush, but that's okay. I'll just wipe it off over there. Okay, there we go. So then we've got more shapes. I don't want to follow the same shapes, but something similar is good. Again, blend. And then again, reload your brush. I've just got mine sort of like little temporary palette over here on my door jamb. It works quite well. And I'm just going to keep going like that. It takes a while, just because you don't rush it, just take your time. Start to feel the sky. That's the trick, I think. Feel the sky. Now keep in mind that the light's coming from over here, so I want to capture those clouds coming from the light of that shape. It gives it that depth then. And then what I can do actually is I can sort of lick my finger a little bit and then just sort of blend a bit more. I tend to use a mix of colours when I'm blending here. Pretty well what I've already used before, which is the cerulean blue, the phthalo blue, titanium white. But then if you just add a tiny touch of Turner's yellow, you'll actually get more depth into it. And just keep going like that. other thing what I like to then do is just have these little sections of cloud that break away. They just sort of give a bit more interest, I think, just little dots and shapes that sort of come together. So if you just sort of just touch the tops of those clouds ever so gently, giving a bit of a shape to it. I hope your painting at home is looking nice. That's sort of how mine's coming along there. Just a few little touches and we can move on to the water. But that'll be the sky completed.